What is going on, people? TripleM back again with another video. It's daily dose of football content, and tonight I would like to talk about Manchester United Football Club as they get a late and dramatic winner against Fulham from what looked like a very undesirable situation. This is football. Thanks to this young man, Manchester United have 3 points going into the World Cup break. And honestly, what a wonder kid this young man is. He is an absolute superstar with the world at his feet. It would be perfectly acceptable for a young kid coming into a team that's very unstable, a team that has a lot of injuries and a lot of illnesses and a lot of off-the-field issues, a team that's in a new rebuild under a new manager with a team that has been built by 3 different managers with 3 different philosophies and styles of plays. Right? Like, there's so many excuses and valid reasons as to why this team shouldn't be performing and why a young player shouldn't come in and be expected to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, and yet somehow he is doing it. Somehow he is stepping up. Somehow he is staring in the face of pressure, and he is becoming a diamond. It's unbelievable. And you know what's even more unbelievable is the fact that he hasn't been involved before. Now, in terms of the actual game itself, Manchester United struggled. It was not a pretty performance. Even in the first half, Manchester United's XG was sitting at 1.86. By comparison, Fulham's was at 0.18. Now, if you didn't watch the game, you would think Manchester United dominated. And in terms of chances created, we did in that first half. But in terms of possession, we didn't. In terms of general control and attacking initiative, it was open season. Now, Fulham unfortunately didn't have the quality in the final third to carve us open in the first half. It was a different story in the second half, but we'll get to that in a moment. Manchester United's biggest problem was every time we would try to play out from the back, whether it was from winning possession or from a restart, a goal kick, a throw-in, etc., whenever Martinez and Lindelof would try pass infield to Casemiro, it would trigger a press. So it was Pereira playing in the midfield for Fulham. I forget who their other player was. I know Paulino was the one playing in the deeper role, but there was another midfielder. I just forget his name, and I apologize for that. But he was playing alongside Pereira in the midfield, and they would press Casemiro. And the wide players would also come in and cut these options off to Lindelof, which would force Casemiro to be in a very awkward situation. Now, usually Casemiro is pretty good at dealing with situations like this. Like against Chelsea, he got pressed a number of times, and he was able to seamlessly just play on the half turn and play the ball up to Bruno, play the ball up to Eriksen, or even go long and find Delo on the wing or find Malacia on the left side, because that's where he was playing on that particular day. But today, Casemiro struggled. He struggled. He was great in terms of defensive work. I believe at halftime he had 3 blocks, he had 3 interceptions. Not 3 interceptions, sorry, he had 1 interception, but he had 3 clearances, he had 3 tackles and 4 ground rules, 1 in the first half. So defensively, he was great. He was immense at stopping Fulham and reading the game. But on the ball, it wasn't a great performance for Casemiro. He really, really struggled. He was not press resistant at all tonight. There's a couple of times where he wasn't even being pressed, and he tried to lob a ball over to Luke Shaw and basically gave the ball away in our own half and gave Fulham a free opportunity to restart and build up an attack in our own half. So Casemiro, very much a dual performance. On the one hand, he was great defensively, but on the other hand, he was terrible on the ball. Malacia, I could say the same thing about him. And the sad thing about Malacia is I think the goal that Fulham scores is because of him. Now, Bruno played the ball back. So Bruno has got to take some personal responsibility for the misplaced pass. But Bruno is playing this ball into this channel over here out of habit. It's out of habit. It's something that clearly we have been doing as a team. When you can't get through, you recycle possession. Manchester United have been better at recycling possession this season, factually, than we were under Oli, than we were under Ranić, and under previous managers. So I don't blame Bruno too much for looking for a back pass because he was in a blind alley. Malacia is too narrow here. He's too narrow. And what ends up happening is this guy is cutting off this angle. So Bruno passes here habitually. He realizes that, oh shit, Malacia is not there. Apologies for the language. And then this guy gets the ball, plays a long ball in, and Fulham are on the counter-attack, and that's how they scored their first goal. Very, very poor from Manchester United. And from that moment on, it was absolutely downhill for Manchester United. Like, it was almost as if we forgot how to play football. The long ball approach was no longer working. The fact that Anthony Martial got taken off for Scott McTominay didn't help either, because Scott McTominay obviously is not the type of person you want to be playing long balls to. So there was an instructive moment in the 68th minute where Bruno Fernandes, I don't know if you guys saw it, Bruno Fernandes was basically yelling at Scott McTominay and getting into his ear. And after that moment, there was a shift. it was clear that Bruno Fernandes was telling Scott McTominay to sit a little bit deeper and let Eriksen go forward, because Eriksen started to take a bit more of the initiative and play in the more advanced areas. And Scott McTominay was almost playing next to Casemiro. Now, he was still going up and getting on the end of chances and trying to be productive going forward, but when we lost the ball, he was sitting a lot deeper next to Casemiro. I thought that was interesting because it clearly shows that the Manchester United players, they're aware of what's going on. I know when we're watching the game, sometimes we think these players are useless, they don't know what they're doing, they shouldn't be earning the salaries that they're earning. You know, if we were in those shirts, we'd be doing a better job. There's actually some fans who actually believe that, but I think it's really arrogant because you can clearly tell that Manchester United, although they definitely should have played better today, Fulham did really well, and you've got to give credit where credit is due. They made life extremely difficult for us, and every idea we tried to come up with to try beat them, they nullified it. In the first half, the long ball approach worked, but it got very quickly thwarted in the second half. Manchester United tried to be a little bit more intricate, a little less direct, tried to play through the lines. It didn't work. It didn't work because McTominay is not number 10, and that's why Bruno went over to him and told him, hey, my G, please just let Eriksen do the distributing. You just try to get on the end of chances, and when we don't have the ball, sit next to Casemiro. Basically, do what you used to do when Fred used to play next to you. That's basically what Bruno told him. And listen, Bruno playing on the right, it isn't ideal, but what else are you going to do? I saw a bunch of people on Twitter complaining that Bruno shouldn't be playing on the right hand side. What else are you going to do if you're Erik ten Hag? What was he meant to do? Keep Elanga on? Because Elanga wasn't doing anything down that right-hand side either. Malacia was terrible tonight. He was an absolute ghost on that right-hand side. So for me, Bruno was the best player down the right, ironically enough. And that's not to say that he should be starting there. Of course not. But what are you going to do? Sancho's not fit, or he's ill. Maybe he is fit, but he's ill. Antony's not available. So we don't have options on that right-hand side. I don't know what people want. But anyways, I've got nothing else to say about the game itself. I'm happy that Manchester United got the 3 points. I think I would have been in a really somber mood and I would have had a really, really hard time filming this video if we did not win that game. Because I'm not going to lie to you, I was pissed. Throughout that second half, I was pissed. I could not believe that we squandered so many opportunities. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we ended up winning. So if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and leave a comment if you want to, of course. Let me know if you agree with some of the points I made in this video. Peace.